Welcome to the Empower Workplace Charging webinar, part of the National Empower Workplace Charging Program, proudly presented by Wisconsin Clean Cities and Drive Clean Indiana. I am Danielle Hayes, Program Specialist. We are looking forward to an informative webinar and are glad you are with us today. Today, you'll hear from a great lineup of industry experts representing all phases of the workplace charging process. You will also be introduced to the Empower program, which can help your business with the resources needed to implement charging at your workplace. We will be taking questions during today's webinar, so make sure you type your questions into the chat box and we will be sure to get to as many as we can. Additionally, we will be sending out a survey following the webinar to help those interested take the next step. All lines will be muted during this webinar. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on the Wisconsin Clean Cities and the Drive Clean Indiana websites. Don't forget to check out our websites for more information and upcoming events. At this time, I would like to welcome Lori Lissick, Executive Director for Wisconsin Clean Cities, and Carl Lissick, Executive Director of Drive Clean Indiana.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Carl and I would like to start off today's presentation by providing a brief overview of Wisconsin Clean Cities and Drive Clean Indiana, as well as providing some details about the National Empower Workplace Charging Program. Wisconsin Clean Cities and Drive Clean Indiana are nonprofit organizations serving the entire states of Wisconsin and Indiana, respectively. The coalitions are managed by Legacy Environmental Services, an Indiana certified women's business enterprise. Both of our organizations are designated by the U.S. Department of Energy Clean Cities program and our Clean Cities coalitions, and we are part of a network of 75 coalitions nationwide. Clean Cities support our nation's energy and economic security by building partnerships to advance affordable domestic transportation fuels, energy efficient mobility systems, and other fuel savings technologies and practices. This year, the Clean Cities program celebrates 30 years of supporting our nation's transportation sector. Our efforts help to reduce our nation's dependence on imported oil, improve air quality, and support local jobs and drive economic development. Clean Cities coalitions provide education and outreach, training, project management, grant and funding acquisition, and the development of stakeholder partnerships. Our coalitions are fuel neutral, supporting all fuels and technologies that are part of the U.S. Department of Energy Clean Cities portfolio. Wisconsin Clean Cities and Drive Clean Indiana are engaged in several grant-funded projects. Please contact us following the webinar to learn more about how our other programs may benefit your organization. At this time, we're going to do a little poll. We're going to have Danielle run that poll for us. So what state is your company located in? And you can select all that apply. We'll give you a few minutes.
All right, so it looks like we mostly have a lot of Wisconsin, and we do have some Indiana and a significant amount of other too. So welcome, and now we're going to be handing it off to Carl.
Well, good day, everyone. Again, my name is Carl Lissick, Executive Director for Drive Clean Indiana. We're going to talk today about the Empower project. The Empower Workplace Charging Program is a national effort funded by the U.S. Department of Energy. It's got the goals of catalyzing workplace charging through outreach and workplace charger installation. Empower is the first and only equity-focused nationwide workplace charging program in the United States. For employers, Empower provides numerous benefits, including equity focus, climate leadership, a resource to attract and retain top talent, and measurable results that can contribute to a sustainable certification. Empower is a critical program now, as many employees do not have access to charging infrastructure. Workplace charging can provide tremendous benefits to those most affected. This program seeks to drive electric vehicle adoption at a local and national level. So workplace charging is a key component of complete electric vehicle infrastructure, which includes home charging and public charging. Generally, early adopters of EVs have the opportunity to install home charging, which provides the greatest benefit in terms of operational cost, emissions, and impact on the utility grid. As more people adopt electric vehicles, both new and used, utilizing financial incentives currently available, employers can provide additional charging infrastructure. As most vehicles set idle for a large portion of the day while parked at workplaces, the deployment of workplace charging can help to increase the utilization of plug-in hybrids and battery electric vehicles. Charging can be accomplished at both ends of workers' frequent commutes, eliminating range anxiety, or can fully support individuals who do not have access to home charging. Workplace charging has several additional benefits, one of which can be the support of fleet vehicles, which may reduce other aspects of operating costs.
Organizations that are interested in adding workplace charging face many questions, such as, when do employees need access to charging? How many chargers are needed? Should stations be made available to the public? How do we get started? How much will it cost and how long will it take to install? Through the Empower program, Wisconsin Clean Cities and Drive Clean Indiana can help. Several tools are available which can help engage with employees, estimate power and charging system needs, provide background on system selection, and educate on available vehicles and environmental benefits. More information about this is available on our websites.
So in addition to the tools developed for the Empower program, don't forget to check out the Alternative Fuel Data Center and connect with us as we can walk you through the process and help you connect with equipment providers, installers, and utilities to make your project a success. As you learn from our panelists today, you may be empowered to take the next step toward promoting charging at your workplace. Technical assistance is available through the program. You can contact us for more information or sign a letter of commitment, which will allow our coalition to support your efforts. We can help you to utilize available resources to create an action plan, initiate installation, and educate yourself and your employees. Once complete, celebrate with a ribbon cutting, highlighting your efforts and celebrate your success. After hearing all the great information, are you empowered? We have a quick poll we would like to have you complete, and then we'll answer your questions. So make sure you put them in the chat or your question tab.
There are several projects that have been completed through this program, and details will be available on our website. Today, we would like to introduce our panel of speakers representing industry experts who recently completed the installation of an EV charging project at Ho-Chunk Casino Hotel and Convention Center in the Wisconsin Dells. Ashley Pike, Electrification Program Specialist at Alliant Energy, manages commercial, industrial, and community customer electrification projects and programs. She supports projects such as deployment of charging infrastructure and provides education opportunities through co-hosting of events such as our Transportation and Innovation Expo. Jim Barrett is currently the Vice President of Sales and Business Development for Inertial Electric. Inertial Electric's focus is providing EV charging infrastructure for municipal and commercial settings. Jim studied electrical and mechanical engineering at the Milwaukee School of Engineering and has over a quarter century of technical sales experience. Jim credits his success to listening and understanding clients' needs in order to offer the best possible solutions. Dave Hedin is the EV Charging Division Manager at Pieper Electric. His 33 years in the industry has given Dave a passion for electric vehicle charging infrastructure, supported by an EVITP certification. He continues to work tirelessly to ensure excellence in end-to-end customer experience. All of today's panelists are also members of Wisconsin Clean Cities, so we're excited to hear from them, and we want to turn over now to our presentation. Our first speaker will be Jim Barrett. And Jim is going to present a video that was produced regarding the Ho-Chunk installation. This project was achieved through the collaboration of project partners working together to make this project a success.
We're really excited about how this is going to turn out, what it means for the future for not only Inertial Electric, but for Alliant and for Ho-Chunk and a lot of our other partners working on this whole project.
I'm Warren Savoy, Technical Training Manager for North America for ABB. My background is I'm an electrical engineer, but I have a lot of mechanical background. I've been in and out the oil field, hardware, software design. The gentleman from Inertial Electric came to my class when I was holding classes in Richmond, Virginia, almost 2 years ago. And they stood out. Most of the time, people are intimidated to come to some of these classes. But each one approached me at a different level with questions. How are we going to do this? How is this going to happen? How is ABB going to help us? I've been speaking with Jim and Lee since then, and they had a project, and I felt compelled because I knew them and they were my friends to help them and make sure the roadblocks were smoothed over.
What we're doing here is there's a long island, about 50 feet long, and in the middle of that island where the unit's going to be sitting, we're going to have a walkway. If somebody comes up with a wheelchair, they're able to access the front of the charging unit to be able to initiate a charge session.
So what happens when you order an ABB charger? You've already spoken with your salesperson, he lines up and you decide on what size charger you're going to have. And in this case, it was a Terra 184. Once you know that, then we have power requirements. So the power requirements are worked out, and the customer has to get the switchgear and circuitry and cables all pulled to the pads or sites where the charger is going to be mounted. So that's all pre-engineering work that has to be done. Once that's all completed, the charger comes in, they hang it and set it on the concrete pad it's going to sit on with its anchor bolts.
The unit has officially been set. We're securing all the necessary ground connections to the plate on the bottom. Just getting all the nuts and bolts tight, and then we'll be moving on to the next unit further south.
The cables are run and are installed according to ABB's installation manual. They're tightened up, and then the connections are tested, and then we power it. So when it powered, it was absolutely beautiful. Everything worked 100%. So then what has to happen is the customer has to go back to ABB and say, my charger's installed, now we need to update the software. They schedule a date. Software was downloaded, charger was brought up, the consultant or the customer service specialist looked at the charger after everything loaded, did some checks, everything's fine. Jim hooked up his Kia Niro and it charged beautifully. And on the back side, the customer support specialist is watching all the logs. Constant voltage, constant current, state of charge of the battery. They're monitoring this to make sure there's no abnormalities. And then they say, okay, you're done. Once you're done, unhook. Jim did all of that, everything worked. And that's when they bless the system off. We're done, and now you can get your financial reader on there, your credit card reader, and we're good to go.
So that was a great video, Jim. Did you want to share a little bit with us about that?
Yes, I want to give people an idea of what the timeline of this project was. The first initial discussion happened in the beginning of 2021, and final completion was not until, about a month or two ago. So there are a lot of discussions that need to happen. A lot of people need to be brought in. We had great partners on this project. Pieper Electric, ABB, Alliant Energy, along with the customer themselves, the Ho-Chunk. So I would urge anybody that's watching, that's interested, start your conversations now. There's a lot of things that you need to think about, a lot of things that need to get planned out, and a lot of partners that need to be brought in to make things go the way you want them to, the way they should go. That I just can't stress that enough.
Well, you've been a great partner, and we're very excited about this project. And it is the result of a lot of the collaboration of different groups working together to make it a success. So we're proud to be a part of that. And we're going to hear next from Dave Hedin, who is going to share with us how Pieper was part of this project and what their role was. So welcome, Dave.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
So yes, we collaborated with Jim and Laurie here at Clean Cities very early on. A lot of discussions to what makes that happen. So you meet with the customer and you end up educating the customer, much like we're doing today, and help them figure out what's the best solution for them. Can their building electrical supply handle some additional loads, some chargers? In this case, this customer chose some DC fast charging, and they ended up having a new service installed from Alliant. So I'm going to just give you a high-level look at the perspective from an electrical contractor. We take these projects from start to finish as well, and we'll just do a quick look at some basics of EV charging and some common just terms here. So level 1 charging, 120 volts is what that is, and it gives you minimal range for every hour you're plugged in, roughly 3 to 5 miles of range per 1 hour of charge. If that fits your lifestyle, that's a potential solution. Level 2 charging is primarily what we'll talk about today. Your home or your workplace. Those chargers range in size. In this case, the 7.2 kW charger, these are 240 or 208 volt. You get about 20 to 30 miles of range for being plugged in per 1 hour. They make chargers that are larger. They go up to a 19.2 kW unit, which can get you 75 miles of range per 1 hour of being plugged in. But there's a challenge there. If your building doesn't have the capacity to install those, you may talk about adding some new power for a cost, or what can I put on my building that'll work now without having to add infrastructure. So 7.2 seems to be the sweet spot in the market, what we're seeing. And then level 3 or DC fast charging, those are 480 volt. That's really for destination charging. And then item number 4 on there, all EV vehicles come with an onboard charger. So they have a cord and maybe adapters so you can plug in, but not all of them can accept maybe a DC fast. So your vehicle is going to limit how fast it can charge. They're widely ranging, and there's new models and new technology coming every month. All right, next slide, please. So this is just a couple pictures of a couple different kind of chargers. So the picture on the left there, a little bit lesser expensive unit, good quality units, but the cords can be up to 25 feet long, and there's a hook, and they just, it's like an air hose. People are done with them, they throw them on the ground, or the snowplow gets them, or the lawn service gets them. So picture on the right is really the same charger, does the same thing, but it has a cable recovery system where it keeps that cord off the ground. Those are additional costs, but helping you figure out what's the best solution for your business. And reportedly, we were at National Conference 3 months ago, and this data comes from that 1/4 to 1/3 of all chargers in the US are inoperable due to various reasons, vandalism, There's lots of hardware platforms out there. There's lots of software platforms. So not all of these are working right now. There's lots to figure out. So next slide, please. So this is what kind of a day in the life of a contractor when we someone calls, or what this should be a checklist for what you should do if you're interested. So the step one, qualified contractor is a big deal here. There's a lot to this market. There's a lot to know. There's a lot of products to know, and there's lots of rules, which we'll go through. The very first thing, step two, after you've contacted your contractor, you must perform a site assessment of the facility. And the facility is the building. Is your electrical service large enough to add additional loads? In this case, EV chargers. What helps that is if you have design drawings, electrical drawings, that all helps in helping us determine whether your building can handle some more loads. Step three, you must perform a site assessment of the property. There's ADA, American Disability rules apply if you are a for-profit business. There's lots of nuances to ADA, but largely it is required. So you have ADA rules for parking, and there's ADA rules for products. And there's lots of documents for those. In a nutshell, your first charger parking spot must be ADA compliant, which is a van accessible spot. So, but each site needs to be assessed. So just be aware that these are out there. Step four, we'll provide a turnkey project cost, which includes design and stamp drawings, all new equipment, any underground services, digging, boring, asphalt and concrete services, either repair, replace, repair. We also can include new chargers. Charger commissioning is an important step to make sure these chargers work when we're done. And it also is a big deal that the charger is commissioned properly to the manufacturer's specifications, which keeps your warranty intact. Very important. And we're also providing, new line painting and signage if you need new line painting for your lot. Proper signage is required in the EV world. So, and then the next step after that is we send a contract, we get some money to purchase chargers and gear. Depending upon if you put in level 2 chargers or DC fast, if you need a new electrical service, that service some of that gear lead times is at least a year, if not longer. Chargers in the level 2 world, some of those are in stock. In the DC fast world, we're seeing up to 6 months. Any of these chargers that are considered smart chargers, meaning how do you connect to them in some way, shape, or form, there's going to be yearly or monthly fees, software fees, cellular connectivity fees. There's also some additional warranty options we provide and some additional service contracts for maintenance and repair. So much like anything else that you own, the key to keeping these working is to do proper maintenance. And usually that's annually. Next page, please. So incentives. There are incentives out there. So the alternative fuel infrastructure tax credit, and I just put the link into a page from Lori's slide. This tax credit is based on location. So where you're located is how you're going to qualify for this or not. If you do qualify, you would automatically qualify for a 6% tax credit. If you use qualified contractors, you could get up to 30%, $100,000 max per location. These are IRS guidelines. So again, this is not fully completed from the IRS. We constantly check on this. highly, highly strongly consult your tax professional on what this means for you. We can only do so much on our end. We have some reporting to do for you at the end. You can hand your professional, but for you to fully understand this, your tax person is going to be your best resources. There are utility incentives throughout the states, but it's based on where you live and what that utility may or may not provide. That website, afdc.energy.gov, wonderful website for alternative energy. You have some state options and you have some federal options on there. So check that out. Next page, please. So I took some data off a very recent National Renewable Energy Laboratory Charging Network report that is out there for the public to see. U.S. light duty demand for EV charging infrastructure. Light duty vehicles is 8,500 pounds or less. So the PEV means a plug-in electric vehicle. The numbers continue to increase. Consumers are buying more every month. Globally, the other parts of the world are a little further ahead of us. China and Europe lead the way. In 2021, our government issued an executive order targeting 50% of US passenger cars and light truck sales as zero emission vehicles by 2030. After that, they passed the bipartisan infrastructure law and the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. There's lots of policy support through credits and investment grants. Tesla has been the only zero emission vehicle since its inception in 2003. Many other manufacturers are also following suit. So there's a lot more vehicles being offered that are in that plug-in electric vehicle market. All of that said, the analysts are projecting by 2030, 48 to 61% of the US light duty market would be PEV vehicles. And many of these people, work in your facilities. So offering workplace charging it's an investment in your property. It's a great way to attract talent. And I got a couple more things. Next page, please. So this quickly is an example of potentially an ADA compliant spot. Potentially, there's some access there for maybe someone in a wheelchair. The ramp into the building most likely meets ADA compliance, but the charger on the wall, I don't know if you can zoom in on that at all, likely passed electrical inspection, but there's no access to that charger. So they wasn't put in the right spot as far as ADA's compliance is concerned. So we're seeing a lot of non-compliant installations happening, and this is just one of them here. So a couple more slides, maybe one. So this is just off the Google. These cords are 25 feet long. It might be very appealing to put a charger on the wall maybe across the sidewalk, but you're not allowed to stretch that cord where it could be a trip hazard. So same here. These are examples of what not to do. And one more. Oh, I don't think this is mine.
Nope, I think that was it.
So any questions, just shoot some stuff in the chat and we'll answer the best we can.
Thank you so much, Dave. And one of the most important things too is reaching out to your local utility. And for that, we have Ashley Pike joining us today from Alliant Energy. And she is going to talk about the role of the utility in the workplace charging. And I don't think that we really mentioned this, but we are partnered with 35 other Clean Cities coalitions throughout the country on this national project. So we're very excited about it. So there are a lot of projects going on around the country, and we are looking for businesses or entities that are interested in including workplace charging at your location. So working with your utilities and reaching out is really one of the very first steps. So Ashley, I'm going to turn it over to you to share some of that information.
Thanks, Lori. As kind of depicted in this image, it's from the Edison Electric Institute, which is a coalition of investor-owned utilities. And it does a really great job of kind of laying out what the whole spectrum of a charging station project is. And so kind of breaking it down into different parts can help map out who the stakeholders are that need to be involved in planning for the project. And this upfront collaboration with these different stakeholders will save you time and money while improving the operations of your charging station installation. Kind of starting over on the right side, the electric vehicle supply equipment, and like it includes like that charging station, and that's kind of like managed by, you'll work with like a charging station manufacturer and like a software provider as well. So on the Ho-Chunk charging station project, Jim at Inertial Electric managed this and helped with procuring the charging station and managing other activities with this installation. Moving on to the next part is the EV supply infrastructure, which includes equipment such as the CT cabinet and panel board, and this is typically managed by an electrician. So Dave and Pieper Electric were the stakeholder on this part of the project, and so they worked with like procuring the equipment and installing that as well, and assessing the site. So making sure that the property and the facility had the equipment that was necessary to support the infrastructure of the charging stations. And then we get to the next part of kind of like the meter and further to the left, transformer and substation, which is the EV grid distribution investments. And that stakeholder would be your local utility, which on this project for Ho-Chunk was me, Adeline Energy. And so we met on site at the Ho-Chunk property with Pieper Electric and with Inertial Electric as well, in order to discuss what's needed for the project. That's a really great way to streamline conversations, to make sure that everything is going to be supported, that the charging station infrastructure, we knowing like what the charging station power requirements are going to be, will determine what kind of electrical infrastructure and grid infrastructure will be needed. And so just having people on site during those conversations and collaborating with each other on the front end will improve the project's time, budget, and operations. One major point for that collaboration and planning is determining where the best location is to put those charging stations. Because the location of where those charging stations go will affect the location and cost of installing the electrical equipment, the EV supply infrastructure, as well as the location and cost of installing the EV grid distribution investment. So that's just another reason to bring all those stakeholders out to the property to assess the facility and assess the property, to create the best solution for you that will meet your needs and your budget. Also, as a utility stakeholder representative, we do encourage you to reach out to your utility early in the project, but there is some information that can be provided to us that will help us to best help you in determining what those grid investments are to support your project. So some of the information that's helpful for us that will help us to help you is knowing like a number of charging stations and like what kind of level of charging stations, if they're going to be like the 7.2 level 2 charging stations, or if they're going to be some of like the fast charging stations. That will help us know to evaluate capacity. Also understanding what is your ideal timeline for these charging stations to be in operation. Sometimes we might be able to assist, other times we won't, depending on mostly supply chain related to equipment that would need to be ordered and such. But also if you have any plans to install more charging stations in the future, that will be really helpful for not only our planning of that grid infrastructure, but also to best advise you of if you're going to install 5 charging stations 1 year, and then 2 years down the road you want to install 10 more. We can kind of best advise you on that infrastructure in order to minimize your costs overall. That considering like upsizing the equipment being ordered might be the most cost efficient for your project. And this type of information, it doesn't need to be like set in stone to have this conversation or to approach your utility or other stakeholders. Even a couple different scenarios of like an example of a project that might be on a small scale, maybe one that's going to be like a wish list, like a large scale. And if there's a big difference, maybe one in the middle. That can be really helpful just to be able to assess the different costs that would be implemented and such. And evaluating the costs in those different scenarios can help determine what project is going to be best for you and help us to advise on how to best approach your project to have the best time, lowest cost, and the best quality of operations. So kind of just reiterating a lot of the points made throughout is talking a lot about collaboration and talking with multiple stakeholders. That's the best thing to do for the project.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Ashley, for that information, and thank you to all of our presenters. Carl?
So after hearing all this great information, are you empowered? So we have a quick poll we would like to have you complete, and then we'll answer questions. So make sure to put them in the chat. So here's the poll. Are you interested in signing a letter of commitment to install workplace charging? So yes or no. Again, there might be many questions that you might have, but if you could just take a moment and answer this short poll. Lori, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, Danielle, do we have any results of the poll?
Survey says.
We do have a lot of commitments. We're only at 67% right now. I was hoping to get a little bit more, but we can go ahead and close out and continue with our questions.
All right, wonderful. So let's ask our presenters to all come back on screen. Okay. Thank you all so much for those great presentations. I think that you have really provided a lot of information to our attendees today. I know that we do have some questions, so I'm going to turn that over to Danielle to start with some of the questions that have been generated by our attendees.
Thank you, Lori. So we do have a lot of questions, which is fantastic to see. So we're going to try and address as many as we can today. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and follow up with emails with those questions that we do not get to. So to start off, we have, is there a similar effort such as this in Minnesota?
Yes. Yeah, the whole Midwest is covered by the Empower program. And so basically the Midwest Region 5 from EPA, which is Minnesota, Ohio, Wisconsin, Indiana, and Illinois are all part of this program. So we're all working collectively together on this initiative. And we can put you in contact with a person from Minnesota that can assist this program.
For our second question, what ratio of employees to chargers do you recommend? For example, if we have 100 people working in a facility, how many chargers do you recommend installing?
I would say it really depends on your employees and their level as a group of adaptation. But go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so I would suggest survey your employees. Ask them how many are interested in the next 3 to 5 years. That's wide ranging. Just for a neutral answer, it's about 1 in 4. But there's an investment part of this too. So you got to start there. Ask your employees.
And we do have resources that are available through the Empower program that we can help you in determining that as well. So if you make that commitment to be part of the Empower program, that will allow us to be able to work with you and to help you to make those decisions, and also working with the professionals.
For our next question, can you comment on the difference between level 2 48A and 80A chargers? Any recommendations between the two, assuming utility availability for both?
Go ahead, Jim.
The general rule of thumb, and Dave hit on this in his presentation, with level 2 charging, for every 1 amp of charging in 1 hour, you're going to get 1 mile. It's a general rule of thumb because you have to think about temperature condition, the type of vehicle that's being charged. A lot of different things go into that. The state of charge of the battery of the vehicle itself can also play a role into how fast things charge. But that's a good general rule of thumb. So for every 1 amp in 1 hour, you get 1 mile.
All righty, moving to the next. Oh, you can go
If you
ahead.
can install a bigger charger, I would certainly look at it, but there's a cost to do that. So as long as you understand the cost, I'd certainly look at putting in the 19.2s.
All right, so for the next question, there are two from the same person, so I'm just going to read them both right now. Do 80A rules apply for EV in municipal parking areas? And is the 30% direct pay option available to local governments for EV infrastructure?
So the municipal part, we would need to visit. So there's not a one answer fits all here. It's very likely they would not.
It's best to reach out to your local AHJ, your local authority having jurisdiction. So for whatever municipality that you are in, talk to your building inspector or your city engineer, and they should be able to provide the guidance for you for the particular site that you're looking at.
Some of these communities, I'll just use Madison, Wisconsin, they have some guidance on parking, new parking lots, and there is some make ready and some amount of chargers that they require. So they also most likely would have some ADA compliance there, but that is, every site needs to be evaluated. And I'm not sure I understand part 2 of that question, 30%. If that's the tax credit thing.
Yeah, that would support, I don't think that applies to municipalities. I think that only applies to businesses, correct? Everybody?
I believe that, again, you got to talk to your tax professional. I don't even want to answer. There's so much out there.
I think that is being discussed right now at a federal level, and we are waiting for directives on how municipalities may be able to claim some of that tax credit. Carl, do you have any other updates on that, or?
No, I would definitely agree with it. This is an ongoing conversation for the last several months, and as those updates become available, we will post those on social media and on our websites to advise folks.
Okay, moving to the next one. Are workplace EV charger incentives available to Wisconsin government sites too?
That kind of is the same question, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that we, as far as us working with municipalities or government sites through the Empower program, we would be glad to do. We can definitely do that. As far as what funding is available, that would be dependent on what you can qualify for. And again, you know, we are not tax professionals, so we would want you to work with your taxing authority.
And for the next one, what grants are available to help pay for the cost of installing EV chargers?
I'll take that one. I would just say, please reach out to us, Lori or Drive Clean Indiana. There is a enormous amount of funding that is currently coming out, and we're monitoring that. So both of our coalitions have been working on a variety of grant opportunities for our state So again, that's constantly changing. And I also think it's important for you to engage with us just to determine, upcoming grants and ways of leveraging those opportunities with folks like Ashley with the various utilities throughout the territories in our state. So, what we try to do is we try to leverage all the opportunities and look for the best opportunity or financial opportunity with the folks that we do work with.
Thank you, Carl. Moving forward, how can this help with our fleet electrification?
The Empower program, if you're referring to the Empower program, this can be something that you can use for your employees, but it can also be used to help to charge your local fleet as well. So it can have a dual purpose there. So once you deploy the infrastructure, you can decide as a company how you're going to use that and how to make that available.
I had one other question. I always like to do this question for Dave, Ashley, and Jim. And why is it important for us to work with quality contractors, IBEW folks, and any one of you, if you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, I'll go first. So this industry, boy, there's certainly a lot of information. There's a lot going on. There are companies that are being sold and being acquisitioned by others. There's companies that are going out of business. There's companies that aren't even in business yet. So it is important that you stick with the main players here. Companies that are not going to go away. Brands of things that are backed by bigger entities right now. Until we understand this and you see who's going to be here, nothing worse than buying chargers and then 3-4 years from now they aren't in business or they don't answer the call when you need some technical support. Your electrical contractor or your general contractor, whoever you're using, you want to make sure that it would be nice if they're local. If you need something, you call them, they're going to come and help you.
I would also like to add, especially when you're looking at DC fast chargers and the amount of power that is running through those systems, you want a contractor that does that type of work on a regular basis and that is familiar with how to do things right, but also how to avoid things that can go wrong. It's not something you want 2 chucks in a truck to come install at your site because there are safety issues. You want the equipment to be installed correctly so it does not malfunction and create a non-warranty issue for you because it was installed properly. So definitely use a trusted, reputable ITP, the ITPT, right? Dave?
What Jim's referring to is some training that's in the federal infrastructure
Yes.
bills, EVITP, Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Training Program. It is required to do installations on some of these federally funded projects.
All the more reason to make sure that the contractor you're working for carries those credentials.
Any comments, Ashley?
I think Dave and Jim mentioned it really well, really making sure that looking into the credentials of all the players and who are going to be supporting the project. I get a lot of questions like which charging stations, and the best resource I have to mention as a certification for charging stations is EPA's Energy Star. So they have a list of charging stations and those have other safety certifications with them so that they've been tested for safety as well. So yes, like the personnel of like who's installing and working on the project, having those certifications, but also for the equipment to have certifications as well.
And I think one other role that we can bring as a Clean Cities organization, as I mentioned, there are 75 Clean Cities coalitions across the country. We're a very tight-knit group. And we can vet some of these companies for you and find out if they're working in other regions of the country and make those introductions to you so you can educate yourself about these companies, and we can kind of be that unbiased third party. And we would welcome that opportunity to be able to assist you and to connect you with other coalitions across the country if that is needed.
All right, and then I do have one last question we can put in. It is, what workplace chargers are workplace chargers accessible to the public?
Whichever ones you would decide you would want to make accessible to the public. Depending on the software platform that you use in conjunction with the hardware, you can set limits for private and public charging times. These times will then be listed on sites like PlugShare, where EV drivers can see when they, as a public user, can access your property. But if you're going to do that, you just have to make sure that you're allowing access to your property for those times. It's a lot to consider. Every situation is going to be different. And that's why we would urge you to reach out and have a conversation with a professional, and they can help guide you.
I have a question too, and I don't know if you would have this information, but are you aware of employers? Are they charging employees to charge at these locations, or how is that working?
I've heard of very few situations where an employer is actually charging employees to do that. I only know out of the dozens of people that we've talked to across the country, I know maybe only one or two that are actually charging their employees to use it. It's at a relatively no cost rate, so the employer is not making a profit from charging their employees. But I think depending on the type of business that you own, and if you're going to install these units, a lot of people are using this as just another incentive, whether it be so much work at home time or vacation time, PTO. This is just another offering to a potential employee that, hey, if you've got an EV, you can come and charge your vehicle for free while you're at work. It's a great perk.
Are those all the questions that we had, Danielle?
There were a couple that came in.
Okay.
Is there a promo code for the expo on October 11th?
A promo code. I would say go to our website or give us a call and we can help you with that.
We do have an early bird rate too. I don't believe it's a code, but that does end on the 1st of this upcoming month. So jump on that.
Was there
Following that, yes. Can a charging station be powered by a privately owned solar area?
Yes. Now, you may
It can't
lose
be
out on
public.
some. Oh, well, not in the state of Wisconsin right now.
Or, yeah.
Not in the state of Wisconsin right now, but yes, I am aware of across the country several sites that are being powered by solar exclusively. But if you want to use that for private, you could use that in the state of Wisconsin. As long as you're not charging somebody to use that charger that's being supplied by solar, then you're fine.
I also would, I know for Wisconsin, it's a little bit gray if there's not like clear guidelines, but if it's also connected to the grid, then that also might not work, where the solar and the charging station could be on the same property, but would have to be electrically separate. So the use case for having a solar to power a charging station would be more of like a microgrid, like an independent system that would be considered off-grid. That's the best clarity that I could provide at this time for Wisconsin.
All right, and then let's go ahead and wrap up with one last question. What's the best case turnaround time to install or ready chargers?
It's a loaded question.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on level 2, level 3 DC fast. Do you have the infrastructure available? Which, if you're doing DC fast, the odds of you having the infrastructure available are pretty low. Even on level 2, if you're going up to the 80 amp, a lot of small to mid-sized businesses don't have even that much spare capacity. I would say if you're serious about doing this and you have a deadline for when you want to have it done, give yourself a 1-year lead time at minimum. If you're looking to do it sooner, you may be behind the 8 ball already. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, we put in some level 2s at a facility, let's just say 2, and they were in stock, and you're still looking at 3 to 5 months. If it's during the winter, it's even harder. Any DC fast stuff, the holdup is the new electrical gear. Long lead times, minimum a year. Transformers, you need a transformer, that's in there too, but 3 months is really pushing it, and that's if you have space, if the charger's available, everything, all the stars align. You're putting in a couple. Otherwise, you're 6, 9, 12 months plus.
I kind of echo like similar things, and like the more equipment that you need to buy and order and the larger size or number of charging stations just continue to add time. So for kind of like those larger projects where you do need some of those significant equipment orders, at least a year.
Okay. Well, we've come to the end of our webinar, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank all of our panelists, Dave, Ashley, Jim, for agreeing to speak today, providing all of this great information. Their contact information will be available. We will be posting this webinar on the websites of Drive Clean Indiana and also Wisconsin Clean Cities. We also want to take a moment just to invite you to participate in our upcoming events and learn more about sustainable transportation, infrastructure, and technology. Register before August 1st for the early bird for our Transportation and Innovation Expo, which is being held at the Alliant Energy Center. We do have special pricing for fleet managers. Also, Drive Clean Indiana is hosting their annual conference and expo in Michigan City, Indiana at the Blue Chip Casino. Both of these are great events, great opportunities to network with transportation industry experts. There's sponsorship and exhibit opportunities available, so please feel free to reach out to us. Next slide. Additional great opportunities include the Wisconsin EV State Policy Bootcamp on July 26th and on August 15th, Navigating the Transformation, the Influence of Electric Vehicles and EVSE on the Wisconsin Manufacturing Supply Chain. This information is available on our website.
And last but not least, we are working on the Indiana Clean School Bus Consortium. So we cover the entire state working on helping schools implement various clean transportation, fleet activities, electric, and then workplace charging and helping our communities go green. So our next event is on August 8th. It's free to attend that. And then we, as Lori said, we've got our upcoming conference and then our Clean Air Golf outing, which always sells out in September. And then we also been doing EV boot camps across Indiana, working with communities and businesses. So that is all I have. I just want to say on behalf of Drive Clean Indiana, thank you to all our speakers. I think this was very informative and a lot of great information, and we'd love to do a follow-up. Lori?
Okay, and thank you again. It was a pleasure to host this webinar with Drive Clean Indiana. And please respond to our survey that will be sent out after the webinar to ensure that we can help you to achieve your workplace charging goals. So thanks everyone, and make it a great day.
Thank you.